And
Hello, welcome everybody. I want to thank you for taking time out of your wonderful, busy schedule to talk about Sigma Gamma Rho. Sigma Gamma Rho is celebrating 100 years this year, and as a special honor, we wanted to grab our history, our Sorors, our Pearl members, to talk about Sigma Gamma Rho, who came from Kansas. Right here in Kansas, we have a rich history of sorors and sisterhood that led the way for Delta Eta Sigma to be founded all the way back in the early 1970s up until now, 2022. So let's take it away, and they're going to introduce themselves. We'll have some chatting and questions, and you get to join in and listen in on how our history of Sigma Gamma Rho was shaped here in Kansas. So Kathy, take it away.
hello, I am Kathy Smith Baker. I attended Emporia State Teachers College, as it was called then, in 1969. I became a member of Sigma Gamma Rho in 1970 at the invitation of my other soror, Debbie Dell, who is now Deborah Wynn. They were having I guess, pledge week or something. Dr. Bonner was sponsoring it, and she invited me, and I went, and the rest is history. I'm from Paola, Kansas, and have lived several places in the United States. I'm currently living in Memphis, Tennessee, but I started out in education in the school district there in Kansas City, Kansas. I taught at Harmon and at Wyandotte, but have traveled around the United States, and now I'm here in Memphis. So it's good to see everybody, and Emporia was a good place to be.
All right, and my name is Rosalyn Watson Brown, and I was inducted into the Gamma Psi chapter at Emporia State University, and I was one of the founding members of this organization. Was excited to be a part of that, and that was in 1969. And I was originally from Arkansas City, Kansas. Everybody says Arkansas, but it's Arkansas City, Kansas. And went to school in Emporia, and now I am here in Kansas City, Kansas, in Wyandotte County, and excited to be a part of this gathering today. It's great to meet young people, keep us going. We started out a long time ago, and it's still going, and that's wonderful to know. Thank you.
Hi. I'm sorry, Pat. Go on. I got the order.
Good morning. I'm Pat Slevier. I went over Gamma Psi chapter 1971. It's hard to believe that was 51 years ago. And the ladies are still a strong part of my life, just as they were long back then. I live here in Kansas City, Kansas now, have moved from Kansas City, Kansas to Los Angeles to Atlanta, Georgia. Now I'm back in Kansas, and all along the way, I have met lots of sorority sisters, lots of Sigmas. And every time I see blue and gold, I get excited, and they either run up to me or I run up to them, but we do acknowledge each other, and I just love it.
Good.
Okay, Thelma.
All right. I am Thelma Joyce, maiden name Whitehead, Todd, and I attended Emporia State Teachers College in 1969 through 1971. I attended Kansas City, Kansas Community College right after high school. But I'm so happy to be here today. I pledged Sigma in 1970. And since I taught school in Kansas City, Kansas, and then after retirement, we moved to Houston, Texas, where we reside presently. And today I'm just so happy to be able to help the Sigmas in their gala affair coming up. Thank you, Stacy. I want to let you know that's my niece. For thinking about us to come, bring us together for such a grand occasion. So thank you, Stacy.
You all are so welcome. And I think it's so important for us to recognize our history. If you go to our Sigma Gamma Rho page in the history section, SG Rho 100, you will see pictures of the Kansas City, Kansas chapter. And so Aunt Joyce let me know, hey, did you realize we made it to the page? I was like, wow. So here are some pictures that, two pictures that were taken from people who were at Emporia as well as Kansas City, Kansas. So the Delta Eta Sigma chapter was founded in 1973. So in 1973, that is when the Delta Eta Sigma chapter was founded, and it really lifted up from those who have probably come from Emporia back home to Kansas City, Kansas, and that was the establishment of the chapter. So if you ladies would please share, why did you join Sigma Gamma Rho? Anyone?
Are we going in the same order, or how are we going?
Is that how? Yes, we can go in the same order. Yes.
So as I said earlier, I was invited to go to a pledge meeting by Debbie Dell at the time, and I from there it just continued on. I met Dr. Bonner, and she was excited to have us in her group, and that's how I got involved. We were the second. Rosalyn, of course, was in the founding group. We were in the second group. Thelma and I were in that together, and I can say that Rosalyn was a great pledge.
Don't believe that.
What did you say?
There were stories that were told last night of something about that. So we won't tell them. We won't share them with this.
I don't know that I don't remember what they were. I'm old. I can't remember what we talked about last night. But anyway, it was one of the biggest blessings of my life was to be invited to be part of this group.
Great, yes.
And then I was invited by a couple of our sorority sisters that are no longer with us. And Beth Honeycutt was the Sigma that invited me into the organization, and with Dr. Bonner. I was not a major in education, so I didn't get the privilege of being taught by Dr. Bonner, but she taught us in so many different ways, being the sponsor for the organization. And it has been one of the most memorable times in my life, being a part of Sigma Gamma Rho. And I just can't explain how the connection has lasted. I think we were talking to one of our sisters some time ago, and one of the statements that was made, did you know that we've known each other for 50 years? And everybody was like, no way. Now we've known each other even longer than 50 years, but it has been a wonderful 50 years, and we wouldn't trade it for anything.
Back in the late 60s, 70s, Emporia State had a nice Black community that supported the Black students, and I was invited to participate and come out and see what was going on with Sigma Gamma Rho sorority by a couple of already Sorors, Debbie Dale and Diane Walls. And as we were talking last night, not only was it something that we got involved in as a sorority, as sisters and an organization, but our mothers were there right along with us. And they participated in every activity that we did. And it was just a great, great time. I was privileged to live in the sorority house with all my big sisters at that time. And we just had, it was wonderful. All I can say is it was wonderful. Just like now, when I came back to Kansas City, we started doing Sigma Saturday. And I would invite the Sorors over, and we just have a good time. Just had so many stories to share, pictures to share, and we still get together via Zoom, via text. It's just what we do. It's just who we are. It's just who I am now.
Can I just interject what Pat said? We all believe that we were put together by God, that this was just didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Amen. I would just like to say, you kind of messed me up there when you showed those pictures at the beginning. I'm like, oh, I'm going to start crying before we even get started. I'm a crybaby, y'all. But anyway, what was the question? How did I join the Sigmas? Okay. Dr. Bonner was our sponsor and, like Roz said, the founder of Sigma Gamma Rho at Emporia. However, I have two older sisters that were AKA. So naturally, they were telling me, when you go to college, you need to join the AKA. I said, okay. So that's what my plans were. However, there was no AKA at Emporium. And so Dr. Bonner was my Methodist instructor at the time. And she called me over to the side one day and said, Thelma, I want you to join the I was like, okay, all right, okay. I was like, okay. And I don't really think I hadn't really met the Roz and the other young ladies. I hadn't met them at that time. So she invited me, to come, and I met the ladies. Well, at that time we were young ladies. And we just connected. It's just awesome. We just connected in the heart. I say the Lord knitted our hearts together. Back then, we didn't really. We had the same values, and we all had Christian upbringing, and so we just connected. And so I really appreciate Dr. Bonner letting me know about the Sigma Gamma Rho and pledging. Going on to pledge and just become a sisterhood. So that's how I became a Sigma.
Those stories are great. I also want to introduce our soror, LaShawna McGee, who's on camera, and to say hello. We came in the same year. I came in fall 1995 at Kansas State University. I'm a Ruby member, been here over 22 years. And I joined the sisterhood because I went to school with a lady, Nikki, who we went to the same high school. Then when we got to college, she had already joined Sigma Gamma Rho and said, you know what, you were so nice and sweet. You should join Sigma Gamma Rho. Do you know any Sigma Gamma Rho? And I was like, I didn't really know too much about sorority life. But the sisterhood is what brought me. The sisterhood, the love, anywhere I went, there was just love for me, and there still is. And that is what helped bring me to say, you know what, I can do more, and I can serve the community. So, and LaShawna and I met at a conference. Those regional and local conferences, they bring us together. So I'll let LaShawna introduce herself and how she became a Sigma.
Hello, my name is LaShawna McGee. I actually attended Stevens College. It's in Columbia, Missouri. It's a private women's college. I was the only African-American student in my class. So I was going out into the community trying to identify with others that looked like me. And every time I went to go do community service, there was always women of Sigma Gamma Rho there. We went to Blind Boom Community Center. They were there doing community service. Went out to do voter registration. They were there doing community service. And then one of them had invited me to an informal rush. And from there, history was made. They were Christian women, so they had the same values as me. They gave me that sisterhood that I needed, that connection that I needed with other African-American women. And I've been active ever since. Again, I am also a Ruby member. I've been in the organization over 25 years myself. So 22, years myself. I'm counting. I'm going. We gonna make it till the day I die. Yes.
So what is you guys' fondest memory? As you think about Sigma Gamma Rho, you've been in over 50 years since back in Emporia days. What is your fondest memory of something that just resonates with you?
Well, there are many memories. I mean, it's just really kind of hard to just pinpoint one, but Pat mentioned living in the Sigma house. My freshman year, you lived in the dorm. Then after that, you had to live off campus. And so my second year, I lived with 3 Deltas. And then I thought, I'm surrounded, where are my sisters? I said, and the relationship was great, but I wanted to be with my Sigma sisters. So I went to the sorority house my junior year and lived there my junior and senior year. And Rosalyn and I became roommates. Now, just because you're sisters doesn't mean you're always on the same page initially. And so Rosalyn, it took a minute for us to get used to one another. But it's something about talking to people in the dark. And at night when we would go to bed and the lights were out and we'd begin to talk, and we found out we were so much more alike than we were different. And it was just opening up, and we ended up being roommates after college. And we were trying to figure out how many years we were roommates all together. And we're somewhere around 7 years we lived together. And we even had boyfriends tell us, nobody's going to break up this partnership. Nobody wants to marry you because you all stay together all the time. But I just think that sometimes you begin with small beginnings, but you end great. And Rosalyn had a car on campus, and I didn't. And we want to go to other colleges, see boys and all that kind of stuff. So Rosalyn told me that if I wanted to go, I had to help drive. And I'm not the world's best driver. People tell you I'm still this day, I call myself a weak driver, but I'm stronger because of Rosalyn. And Rosalyn said, I'm going to make you drive. So, and I do credit her with that. I think a mutual respect for each other, understanding each other's strengths, understanding that we all have weaknesses, and coming beside each other to help strengthen those weaknesses and continue to, just lift up the strengths that we have. Each one of us that's still part of the Gamma Psi chapter originally, we all have our own individual strengths, and we draw on those from each other. Some are administrators, some are encouragers, some are prayer warriors. Whatever it is we need, there's somebody there usually, like Thelma has the gift of art, of acting and all. Everybody has their own, and we don't try to run in anybody else's lane. And I think that's important.
That is good.
That was excellent, Kathy. And I will continue that somewhat with the sorority house. It was something, since we've been talking about remembering things, I was saying to the girls the other day that, we did not understand at the time what a jewel we had right there on campus. I don't know that any other Black sorority had the opportunity to have a house on campus. And that was due to Dr. Bonner and her husband, Dr. Bonner. So we call him Dr. Bonner and Bonner. And
Dr. Bonner.
Right. They purchased a house for us, because we don't normally get those opportunities at college, and to be able to say, and I think one of the things that I said to Debbie said to me last night was that we were the first Black sorority official on campus. There were AKAs and Deltas, but nobody had that official. So that does make us feel great. And I wish today we had been smart enough to know we should have kept up with that house and allowed some other young people to take part in those kinds of things. But we didn't know those kinds of things at the time. But the fact that we were allowed to have a
fondest memories, there were so many. And like I said, I was privileged to live in the sorority house and be a pledge at the same time. So that was quite interesting. A lot of fun. I think we were on the 5th line. I want to say the 5th or the 6th line. And there was one big sister that used to just give us the blues. And I don't know if you remember, Linda had this huge old car. I mean, this car it was just a 4-seater, but it was so old, it could hold the entire line and some more. And we said, what are we going to do to get Cynthia Dixon off our backs? I mean, she was just the one. And not proud of what we did, but we got it done. We just kind of like scared her a little bit. But anyway, being a soror in the sorority of Sigma allowed us to do so many things. We participated in the march downs. I think those were probably the thing that I may have liked the best, because it was a secretive thing, your performance, and we all performed. We had outfits, and one of the ones that stands out was hot pants. Of course, we always talk about hot pants. And then we also did one where we had blue jumpsuits that we had special made, and we won several march down competitions. And we got to travel around. We traveled around the K-State. We went to Warrensburg. We went quite a few places, and it was awesome, just awesome. Community service, I remember one time we were going to ring the bell for Salvation Army. And why we decided to do it in the snow, I don't know, but we rang the bell. We did our community service, and we were true to it, and we got it done. So that was a fond memory. It was like, we're out here in the snow ringing the bell, and it was fun. It was fun. All those things brought us so close. And I think that's why we're so close today.
Of course, I'm going to piggyback on all the other ladies. The sorority house, I mean, how can you forget it? I mean, it was the highlight of my college years. But one thing, personally, I never felt connected to Emporia, but through my sisters, it just made me really enjoy college. If they had not been there, if Sigma Gamma Rho had not been there, I think I would have been a lost child. No, but I mean, but really, seriously, living in the sorority house, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And, you know, I was looking at it, and I said, you know, I really can't, honestly, I cannot think of one bad incident that we had in the house. Basic, you know, we got along. There was no fights, cussing each other out, things that could happen among women, you know, us, how we could get together. The way we got along was remarkable, really, now that I really think back on it. And so, and, you know, we learned how to share and how to care. If I had some bacon and you needed some, you could fry some of my bacon. You could eat some of my bread for your toast. You know, it was just that kind of sisterhood where, you know, if I had it and you didn't have it, here we go. You know, we have one. I didn't have a car, so I could depend on. At that time, Carol Hayton had a car. She would actually bring us all the way home to Kansas City, drive us to Kansas City just to see our parents, and drive back. So I mean, it was just some really, really fun memories. However, I did think of one incident that wasn't so good. We were pledging, and that girl right over there, those two.
She's putting you Rosalyn. I know she is.
We were pledging, and they blindfolded us and took us out somewhere. I don't know where it was, side of a country road. I don't know where it was, but they blindfolded us, and then we had to take off our. Do y'all remember this? We had to take off our blindfolders and run back and go back to the car. So we took off and we were running, and somebody stepped on a piece of glass.
It was me, and I had to go to the hospital.
Oh, it was you, Karen?
Yeah, I got a cut and a scar on my foot to this day.
Dr. Bonner was so upset. She set us down and really got my case.
She called us peanut brains. And I say,
don't believe a word of it.
Oh, yeah. You know, we talked about Dr. Bonner so much, this came to my mind. We had a refrigerator, and don't ask it, I'm guilty. I'm the one who did it. I had an ice pick trying to break something up, and I tore up the refrigerator. Freon went everywhere. And so those of us living in the house, we knew we had to call her and Dr. Bonner. And we said, okay, this is what the story is. But I'm not a very good liar. I don't lie very well at all. And so as soon as Dr. Bonner walked in the house, she said, I don't want anybody to talk with Kathy. We didn't even get to lie. I had to spill the beans and everything. And it just so happened I'd been the one Thelma was talking about that fell and cut my foot on something. I don't know if it was glass or what it was, but I cut my foot. She was mad.
The Dr. Bonner had it all set up for us. And The house was entirely furnished. It even had a payphone on the wall. So it was great. Carol Hayden was my roommate. She put me on the top bunk, and like I said, it was great. Back in those days, it was pea coats and apple caps. And my nemesis, Kathy Smith, we dressed up in pea coats and went to a game. Do you remember that, going to a game? And we had our hats tilted to the side and all. And at that point, my husband tells me when he saw us walk in, he knew right then and there that I was the one for him. And, Kathy might not know that, but she was one of the reasons I got my engagement that year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've been married for 46 years now. So,
and I met my husband at the sorority house, who came to a function. He was from Wichita, and his sister never wanted to pledge Sigma, but she hung with us, and so she and I were good friends. He just came to visit her. But back to our mothers working, there had just been a chicken and chitlin dinner fundraiser. Yeah. So we had some chitlins and chicken left over. And my husband said, oh, he doesn't eat that kind of stuff, trying to show out. So he ate some chitlins. And we stayed upstairs while there was a little party going down in the basement. And he and I have been together ever since, almost 50 years.
And I got a big impact on that. So I know we're taking up a lot of time. But in
it's fun.
In the sorority house, as Kathy said, downstairs there was a little sitting area, and of course my room was downstairs too. I was the last one to pick a room. So anyway, I was in the basement. But my Harry and a friend of his had come, and Grace Ella and we were all downstairs in a little sitting room, and we were playing music. So we got up to dance. And Harry said, oh, by the way, here you go. And he popped out this engagement ring. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm running upstairs to tell them, and they all standing by the door like this because he had told my sisters that he was going to do that. So they knew I didn't know. But we got engaged in the basement of the sorority house in the little sitting room, and we've been married 52 years. 52 years.
That is so beautiful. And we keep talking about Dr. Bonner. Dr. Bonner was, and here's a picture of her. She was so,
girl.
She was so influential in Emporia. She served, and we heard so many stories about her as we came through as Sorors, because she was someone who was well known in Kansas. So I just wanted to let you know she was a very powerful woman. She has a great history. Her obituary is still out there. You can go read about her. And of course, she mentioned Sigma Gamma Rho and being the first of many women who achieved so much here in Kansas. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor Dr. Bonner, since we mentioned her so many times. And I had heard about the sorority house, but I had never knew the good, interesting and juicy stories. We had an official sorority house at K-State. It's like we had a place where we would live together in similar proximity, but as people graduated or became a sophomore, then they would move in. So, oh my goodness. So that is, those stories are awesome, especially meeting your spouse. That's so beautiful. So what about the memories after you graduated college and then maybe came back to Kansas City or went on your life? What are some fond memories about Sigma?
Like I said, there's your universe gets smaller and smaller. And I am so happy to say that the sorority sisters or Sigmas still wear their colors. And when they're out and about, they still wear their colors. So you're able to meet a new sister almost constantly, whether you're at Kmart, at the funeral home, wherever you are, there's always a sorority sister there. Like I said, we haven't done it since the COVID, but we did enjoy Sigma Saturdays a couple of times. So we just got together. We have started having our Christmas celebration. We do have a Christmas celebration via Zoom. And it's so neat because we send out the menu and we all fix the same foods kind of like, and we're sitting there eating our foods, drinking our drink, revealing our secret Santa sister. And it's just a great time. We have made memory quilts for sorors that have gone on and presented it to their daughters. Beth, we had Betty Anderson, who's been in a retirement home for years. I made a quilt and sent it around to all the sorority sisters out of town, in town, and they wrote a quote on the quilt, and we were able to present that to her. What else have we done? Just constantly supporting each other. We speak on the phone via text or Zoom constantly. I mean, sometimes if I don't look at my phone for a day or so, I've missed so many conversations. It's like, oh man, I got to catch up. But there's 6 of us that we definitely stay in contact, but we do reach out to our other sorority sisters in Topeka, Ross and Cara in Topeka. She reaches out occasionally, and we do respond to her.
I want to say that Pat just recently lost both her mother and father. And it just means so much when we can stand beside someone in the good times for weddings. I know, like when Rosalyn's daughter got married, when my daughter got married, and we stand, but also in the most saddest of times, in the saddest of, that we're there, and we can reach out by phone or by text or however, just to know that people know we're there, and we're thinking about them, praying for them, and loving them.
And I think we, in our young age, we didn't really realize that we were really making lifelong friends. The relationship has lasted. You see, it's lasted over 50 years. And we've shared in so many experiences, life experiences. And I think you don't really think at a young age, you don't really think about that, like the loss of a spouse, loss of a parent, loss of a child, even the celebrations, just all the things that encompass life itself. And we have truly been supportive of one another during the times, these difficult times.
Yeah. And I would just say that the thing is, those we don't talk to on a regular basis, the minute they need us, it's just automatic. It's not I don't know, I haven't talked to her in a long time. We just start talking and things seem to just fall into place, I would say this is considered genuine love. I don't know any other word to say. It's that this is absolutely, genuinely sister love. One of the things is I don't have a sister. I have 2 brothers, but I never had a sister. But my God, I have so many sisters I can't count, and I wouldn't trade them for anything.
And I just want to say too, like I haven't talked to my sisters here probably in maybe 3 months. Well, I mean, it's been maybe some a year, but when I called them about this, I mean, it's like it just picks up where it left off a year or 2 or 3 years ago. It's just a connection, and we just pick up from where we left off. That's how strong our love is. Really.
And Thelma, it can be longer than that. When my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, died about 3 years ago, she had been roommates with another Sigma in graduate school. And I felt like, well, I need to reach out to her. Diane Walls, Kipper, she and Sybil had been roommates and they're working on their master's. So I called Diane. I hadn't spoken to Diane in 40 years. Guess what? We talk almost every day now. And it's just like Thelma said, you just pick right back up. You didn't have to get reacquainted. You didn't have to worry, oh, what is she thinking about? I mean, none of that. It's such a blessing. That's when I say God put us together. He really did.
That is a blessing. So as we talked before the recording started, we are younger sorors. We're carrying on the torch. We know that you guys have been together for a long time. So what advice would you give us, the younger sorors, the sorors younger than us? Because as we meet new sorors that are coming in and undergraduate and coming in and graduate, and what advice would you give ladies joining Sigma Gamma Rho, or those of us who are carrying the torch, because we're still young and then we're passing on the legacy. So what advice would you give to us?
I want to say, I think you keep the heart of service, because there's so much needed in the world. Even within the sorority, keep your heart of service. Outside the sorority, keep your heart of service. Be led, by the Spirit as far as what you do in life, because there's always a need for service, and that's such a great feeling that you have when you give, and that you guys know that. And I think the sorority is doing a magnificent job with the programs of service that you're offering. I went and looked on the website. I was like, oh my God, this is really, I kind of got excited. But I would say just keep the spirit of service. You serve in your families, your churches, the community, the city, statewide, and back to your universities. You can it's so many ways that you can just continue to give of service. And that's what I would say, because even among ourselves, I know, we have been involved, Roz in the city, run for city officers, and Pat involved with the university. Kat, it's just so much that you can give. And so I would just say, keep the spirit of service.
And I would just simply say, stay genuine. And like Thelma said, it's such a need out there. And I think especially those of you that are educators, you realize the need for someone to lean on. And I think we just need to stay there and continue doing what we're doing. Now, I'm going to say, I would never even thought about looking at the website. Now, that's how old I am and untechnology-wise I am. So I'm going to look at the website after we get through with this meeting, because those are the ways that we can stay together and connected. It's just like, but I was going to say earlier before everybody got started, one of the things you need to remember, you got to take care of us old folks, because, we need every one of you. Believe you, if there's something you can do, just say, hey, can I do this for you? But we're there for you in any kind of way that we can be. But I have no other comparison, because I've never been an AKA or a Delta. I'm sure they feel these same kinds of things, but I don't know that they can beat the sincere, heartfelt love that we do for our sisters. So, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But I do know Sigma Gamma Rho is top notch.
And going back to Dr. Bonner again, one of the things that she did, if you girls remember, we had the Miss Black Teenage Kansas beauty pageant.
That's true.
For the whole state of Kansas. And I mean, it was national. It was a wonderful thing. She taught us about service. She taught us about being leaders. And I think everybody that's in sorority in some way or another is some kind of leader. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of us serve more than Pat and Rosalyn and Joyce. I know you all are real active in various community activities, but in some way or another, we're all leaders. And that is, once again, something that Dr. Bonner instilled in us. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of been listening to his talk, because Dr. Bonner didn't let you do you couldn't talk like you girls. Remember that? She made you speak properly. It's something I'm working on my grandchildren about.
That was one thing about Dr. Bonner. She did teach us a lot. And she always said, when we talk about Sigma Gamma Rho, or we talk about ourselves, somehow get in there, I'm one of Dr. Bonner's girls. And when you said I'm one of Dr. Bonner's girls, everybody knew what that meant. So she had such a presence that even at her service on campus, when the speakers got up, they all showed the respect that they would say Dr. Mary Bonner, and then you had some who would say Mary Bonner. And they would say, you can say Mary Bonner. And they say, no, we can't. She be done jumped up and slapped us. But there was definitely a honor presence to be in the presence of Dr. Mary Bonner. And just so you know, Mr. Dr. Bonner, as we called him, has just been honored with the naming of a floor in the math department on Emporia State campus. So there are a lot of things there that their legacy is there. And that's one of the things that we do as Gamma Psi, is to make sure that that legacy continues.
Right.
And that is so rich. It's important that those of Gamma Psi know the history, know you guys, know the foundation that was laid before them. As we think about celebrating 100 years, and you guys have been around more than half of that time for us to celebrate.
Oh, wow, isn't that so?
Isn't that awesome? Like, you have been around, since when we were starting, 30 years, in the making, and then you became a Sigma Gamma Rho. So what are your thoughts about us turning 100 years? How will you celebrate? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, this is the celebration right here,
Right.
for us to be a part of it and to be a speaking part, a living part of it. So thank you.
That
Amen.
is great. That is great. And anything we can do that we can manage to do, we will certainly be willing to be a part of it. And we are excited to have the opportunity to be a part of the 100-year celebration. So my ears will be perking up to see and hear everything that's going on in KCK.